Hello everyone, welcome to this next section on workshops and secondment. I hope you had a pleasant lunch and a good artistic workshop experience. Next agenda on the program here is to talk about the part of the Reclaim network which had to do with organizing workshops and secondments, and this was really where we tried to push the interdisciplinarity and also the working across sectors. So we had workshops, we tried to pull people together from all sorts of organizations to talk to each other about nature-based solutions. And we had secondments where we were emphasizing the exchange between academia and other sectors. In both cases, we were focusing on trying to give this opportunity to early career researchers. So this was a conscious effort by the network to try and to open up opportunities for younger researchers, but also to broaden out the scope to bring everybody together to talk. And I think we've been quite successful in this. And we've got 4 examples here of some of these activities. So without further ado, I will like to invite Abby from Nature Festival, I believe, to come and talk about the workshop.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm Abby from the Natural History Consortium. Just to make sure, yeah, that's working. Great. Hi. It's been really nice to speak to some of you already today about the amazing stuff you're doing, and thank you so much for everyone who's organised it as well. I always find these events so heartening to know what everyone's been doing and that we're all working together on these things. So I'm Abby, and I'm from the Natural History Consortium, and the workshop we put on ran in June this year as part of our Festival of Nature. So I'll tell you a little bit more about us as an organisation, and then a little bit about how the day went and what came out of it. So yeah, we're the Natural History Consortium. We're a charitable collaboration of 14 organisations, some of which you can see on here. And we're all about the sort of events management and public engagement side of things. We try to promote action for nature through a variety of different things across the year. So 2 of them you can see, which are some of our big ones here. The Festival of Nature, which is the event that was the funding we won from Reclaim to put on the small workshop that we did across the day. As part of that, there were 60 events across our programme for Festival of Nature this year, and it was our 20th anniversary, so it was a 10-day programme, lots of stuff going on. And then the City Nature Challenge, which is, I've heard someone else talking about it this morning, using iNaturalist to promote people engaging with nature, getting out and recording the things that they can see around them in their natural environment, and sort of trying to promote engagement through those sorts of activities. So yeah, there's also another one which we're putting on, which is a professional-facing event coming up in November. That's our marketing and communications piece for anyone who's working marketing communications in environmental and climate change things. That will be coming up in November and is called Communicate. So I'll go ahead and tell you a little bit more about our mini conference that we decided to call it, the Reclaim Mini Conference, which ran in June. Our aims were to create opportunities for cross-sector working, and I'll show you a little bit later the list of participants, but it included councils across our region. We're in the west of England, so we're like Bristol, Bath, and a little bit further afield. And all kinds of charities, and also the NHS came along to this event too. So we had a really nice spread of organisations to start making some really great links between those organisations. So the other thing we were really keen to do is to discuss ways to engage the public more with green, blue and grey infrastructure. And you can see from the little summary about what we thought about for making livable cities. One of the really interesting things that came out of the day was thinking about those volunteer organisations that we lean on sometimes, parks, Friends of Parks groups, all kinds of different organisations like this. So I'll tell you a little bit more about how the day went. We decided to split it into 2 distinct ends of the day. So we had the morning, which was our biodiversity, land and water management session. And Thomas came along and helped us with an introduction to Reclaim on the day. And we also had a really interesting talk as part of that morning session from the National Trust, who gave us some information about how to use natural corridors to bring nature from outside of the city into our cities, which is really fascinating. And then we went into a series of talks and things to do around tables so people could chat together. And then our afternoon session, which was public health and planning, and we were really lucky to have Izzy Bray, who's already spoken this morning from UE, to tell us some more about quality of life data, followed by more of those chances to discuss. We had some mapping activities so that organisations could discuss and find out the links between their projects and how they were overlapping more locally too. So I'll just show you this bit. So some of the things that came out of the day, like I was saying, we figured out that actually those social structures like volunteer groups and parks, Friends of Parks groups are so vital in promoting biodiversity and all those things that help us promote action for nature. And yeah, we just had such a great time. One of the things that we were really proud of, we did a short survey to find out how people had enjoyed the day. And we found out that the charities had actually formed links with the NHS representatives to promote more work around green social prescribing. So that's going to be some ongoing work in that as a result. And we were really pleased to see that people could take the learning from the day and put it into their work straight away afterwards. So yeah, we felt super proud of the day, and we were really glad that Reclaim could be part of the Festival of Nature with us too. And these are some of the organisations that were in attendance with us across the day. So you can see it's a really nice mix. Managed to get some excellent results from the day and lasting connections. So I'm going to keep it short and sweet and leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abby. I can testify that it was a really nice day. Next up is Agnes Shen from University of Surrey. I believe it's one of the secondments.
Hello, everyone. You can call me Agnes or Xiaobo, whichever is easier for pronounce. Yeah, but don't worry, I got Agnes as English name since I learned English about 7. Yes, thank you again for giving me the opportunity to come here and promote the workshop we would like to help the Network Plus to do. So I think, by the way, with my short memory, I will need to look at the screen a bit. So our workshop is more about, say, adapting the hybrid GBGI approaches for better wastewater processing. So that's a bit kind of related to my background as well. So I will introduce a little bit. So I wouldn't go through details. You guys can Google me and my supervisor, Dr. Bingo, around the Surrey network and also the LinkedIn as well. But me and my supervisor, we will host the workshop together. And then for myself, I have also nearly 2 decades, actually this year 2 decades of the industry background. So I work part-time in Thames Water as well, actually since 2003 December with Thames Water Shanghai, and then later 2004 Thames Water UK. So basically myself, chartered engineer with, I always call a bit scientific, sort of scientific curiosity and scientific mindset. So I always want to ask the question, it's not say engineers get really excited to build things to resolve the problem. I always ask why. Why do we need to build? Do we really understand the what? And that helped me to think about things related to the GBGI in the water cycle. I think you guys probably already had seen quite a lot of topics and research, mainly about that green bit particularly, upstream I call it. And then the sewage works is actually quite heavily, I call it, it's quite heavily engineered. It's basically a man-made enhanced system for the natural purification system. And then you can sort of theoretically call it quite grey. But then nowadays, we had this carbon net zero 2030 for all the England and the Wales water companies need to hit this target. We hear COP26, we hear energy cost, all these kind of global growth, all these issues, extreme weathers, flooding, everything linked to sewage networks. And then if we silo things, basically as network, as sewage, as treatment works itself, as water supply, we would actually start to probably cancel each other at each kind of stage with the good research effort, things together. Then I'll say, for example, so basically a lot of talks has been talked about the SUDS. Then I was hoping, the workshop we're hoping is to help the people dealing with the upstream starts to think more significant meaning behind it. So if you get the flow reduced, kind of like particularly the more steady flow throughout the seasonal change, everything, then you will start to see much less kind of storm overspill. So basically, and the compliance risk also be improved as well. And then I want to just go to very quickly the aim and the objectives is we want to create a platform for the different shareholders together to actually bring the people from the whole food stream, from the decision maker to the implementer, like water companies, and also to our delivery partners, the consultancy, to sit down and talk together with the university to see what can we do to adapting this GBGI, hybrid GBGI approach to actually sort out better water, wastewater kind of streamless projects, and which will be beneficial for the overall kind of carbon network, carbon net zero target and the compliance and the public health. Thank you, and it's coming in December. We will get a date. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Next up is Miguel Trevino, University of Birmingham City University. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So I'm Miguel from Birmingham City University. My project, based in Birmingham, is in a neighborhood called Digbeth. Perhaps some of you know it. So I'm looking at the canals and canal sites as pieces of infrastructure, and particularly I'm interested in understanding the multiple values associated to these canals. So the ones that I'm looking at particularly is the Grand Union Canal and the Digbeth Canal, is the intersection next to an area called Junction Works. And here there are what I've been observing and reading also and reviewing through multiple kind of academic activities. There are some competing and conflicting values associated to the management of these canals. So the purpose of this research is understanding the values that local actors, particularly artist organizations, and also craft makers, as well as dance schools, artist schools, photography schools, what sort of values do they have and have developed to these canals, and also how these values have been demonstrated through different processes and practices that they have taken, and they have intervened throughout at least the last 3 years. So here are the aim and objectives. I'm particularly interested in understanding those cultural and civic organizations. How do they value? How do these values influence in a way the activities that are being carried out for conservation of these areas, and particularly to kind of highlight the dialogue or facilitate the dialogue between these actors and the city administration, the local council, in decisions of regeneration and conservation planning. So for this purpose, I'm employing a cultural landscapes approach. Pretty much I'm trying to understand what is being called the embedded values and the surface values. In other words, thinking about the values from the past, those that can be understood from memory, from the relationship of the past, and those perceptions and the surface values, which are the way we appreciate and experience the place today. Some of the examples of what has been happening in this area, in the canal sides, you see two photographs here. So the first one on your left-hand side is a project called Reabsorption, which was an artist intervention pretty much to remediate the soil quality of the canal sites. So this area has been or was subject to a lot. It was a deposit of a lot of pollutants from the former industrial past. Now the project was an artist intervention to reclaim and remediate that soil through composting and other activities. It wasn't so much about the, let's say, remediating of the soil, but it was about the process of bringing the community together to understand the different qualities and values of that space. The second on the right-hand side is the apothecary garden, which was an activity also to put people together in Minerva Works, a kind of complex of different artists, galleries, and shops, and to put them together into a community garden. So that's another example of what is going on in that area. So through Reclaim and thanks to the funding, I'm doing a workshop in a month. So it's in the 13th of October. So if anyone is close to Birmingham or would like to participate, please join us. This is going to be a participatory photography workshop. So we're going to use photo voice. We're going to walk along the canals to try to kind of understand and get a better understanding of those values associated with that space. And we're going to host a next activity, which perhaps I think it will be about November. This one to exhibit the work, to exhibit the photographs, and to establish that dialogue with policymakers and other relevant stakeholders. And what is expected as an outcome of this project is to develop a toolkit that can help us put together a series of themes and topics of these different values, and also somehow influence current policies such as the historic characterizations of this area, and also the regeneration plans that are being, as I said, currently being undergoing in this part of the city. So that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. I hope you get a good turnout for your workshop. I'd like to invite our last speaker, Hiswen Hua. Do I pronounce that correct? Yeah, close, okay.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Xizhen Huang. I'm doing PhD in Energy and Environmental Engineering at the University of Reading. Today, my presentation title is Adapting to Perceived Thermal Comfort in Urban Parks and Squares During Heat Waves. First, I would like to briefly introduce this secondment. I participated in the Reclaim Network secondment hosted by Professor Prashant Kumar from the GCARE at the University of Surrey, because the secondment enables knowledge exchange with about implementing green infrastructure for comprehensively solving the urban problems, and also working with experts by on-site visits. And my expertise includes urban green infrastructure planning and design, as well as outdoor thermal comfort evaluation. And the research project aim is to investigate green infrastructure approach to adapting to urban heat waves. The heat wave survey was conducted in July and August last year. And one day on 19th of July, and the daily maximum temperature was over 40 degrees centigrade. And the heat health alert is at the level 4, which results in the national emergency at that time. The rest of 5 days were at the August, and the daily maximum temperatures were around 30 degrees. And the heat health alerts were level 3, which means the threshold temperature has been reached. The field survey were conducted in urban parks and squares. There are 2 parts for data collection. One is microclimate measurement, air temperature, relative humidity, wind speed, and globe temperature were collected. At the same time, questionnaires for passers-by were collected. People were asked for voting their thermal sensation votes, ranging from very hot, hot, warm, neutral, cool, cold, and very cold. And they were also asking for choosing their adaptation behaviors for thermal comfort. And finally, there were 158 respondents in squares and 167 respondents in parks. The temperatures that people feel neutral can be determined by regression analysis between the mean thermal sensation vote and universal thermal climate index, which is a thermal index calculated by the measured climate parameters. And when the mean thermal sensation voltage is equal to plus or minus 0.5, the neutral temperature ranges can be determined. We can see from these two figures that people in parks can generally accept a wider range of temperatures and feel neutral. As for the adaptation behaviors, we can see that moving to cool spaces and taking cold drinks were the most favorable behaviors voted by people, followed by decreasing clothes, wearing hats, decreasing activity intensity, and moving to ventilated spaces. Using umbrellas and portable fans were the least favorable behaviors. From these various behaviors, we can see that people are active participants to choose their thermal preferences rather than passive recipients of the thermal environments, quoted by Professor Rongmin Yao, who is expertised in thermal comfort study and building an environment. And I'm so grateful for her supervision for my PhD study. Finally, I would like to end this presentation from a quote from Professor Prashan Kumar, who emphasized that every initiative is to inspire people, such as a heat cool initiative for enhancing the awareness for climate for people. And I hope this work could help to develop a GI approach for adapting to urban heat waves. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a very good example of what can be achieved from a collaboration, I think. So I think those were 4 good examples of reclaim-funded activities that have tried to build and strengthen and create a new network. So I think we should finish by thanking our 4 speakers for the excellent example.